We're going to call our meeting to order, special council meeting October 24, 2017. Everybody would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so this is a special council meeting for the purpose of, well, Ron, what did you? This is a special council meeting for the purpose of talking about a possible addition or remodel of the town hall building, or perhaps a new building. Ron, do you want to introduce the people who are here to make a presentation?
Sure. From Kimlinghorn is Stefano Avaiola, and our architect is Mr. Abbas Zachariah, sorry. As you know, we've been talking about a renovation of the town hall for almost 2 years now. We talked about it, and last year we started to work together with staff, with Kimlinghorn, to get a feel of what was the possibilities we could do with the building. Way back, I guess it was about 7 or 8 years ago, we discussed possibly going to a third floor. We had a structural engineer review the plans of the building, and the foundation was not sufficient, or it probably could have been built at the time, but not now. And so a third floor option, really, without taking the building down, was not an option for us. A couple of years go by, the downturn in the economy, and 2 years ago we started talking about this project. It clearly was, the building is located, or the town hall is located in the right spot. We really looked into that. We looked at a few different places. This central location just fits well for the town. It's known for its history. It's walkable. Everybody knows where it is. One of the nice things that I find is everybody's centrally located as a management perspective. It's very nice to walk across to the police, or walk down the hall and get the engineering, or speak to Alan, run upstairs to the building department. I can almost scream and people can hear you, which is a good thing, and you hear everything that's going on. Public Works is here. When they abandoned the water tanks, it was a very smart thing to do, to convert that into a Public Works garage. If anybody has walked through there, it's a lot of space, and it comes in very handy for storing materials, trucks, and the materials that we use almost every day. Our sewer lines in our sewer station is located here. Everything flows down to either by force main or by gravity to our main pump station at Town Hall, which is then ejected by pressure to through Surfside down to Miami Beach, and then ultimately out to Virginia Key. The direction that we really spoke to Kimlinghorn was, we came up with, we were trying to do either a renovation or remodel, and give us really a perspective of what could be done. My point of view was, I'd like to do something and not break the bank. You can see by the estimates, they're on the high side, but considering estimates these days, they were being very conservative, and rather be high than come in too low, and that's fine. So these are the estimates that we have. They could be up, or could be down, but they are conservative. I'll take you. We have basically 4 options, or maybe a 5th option, which is do nothing.
I'm sorry, Ron, before we get any further, I need to do the roll call.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Forgot about that. Please.
I apologize.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Yaffe.
Here.
Councilmember Tricocci.
Here.
Councilmember Sauber.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Fuller.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bruder's not here, and Mayor Leonard's not here. Thank you. Sorry.
One of the things that really stands out, because we are an island, is that we have all our main administration, our servers, a lot of our main infrastructure is located on the ground floor. And just with the passing of Irma through the town, it was clear that, we were very lucky. We dodged a bullet with that storm, but we still got some good flooding around. The idea was really, how can we get some of that infrastructure off the ground? And the idea was, maybe if we built over suggested maybe an addition to the town hall space, renovating what we had. it was feasible, where there would be disruption to the town staff, but it wouldn't be where everybody was camped out in a trailer for 3 years. It would be like that. The police department has always needed more room. They're really crushed in there, particularly really for investigations and interviews. It's very difficult. The supervisors have some very limited space, and they're kind of cramped in there. So the idea was to give them more space, get the IT, finance, clerk, manager's office upstairs, let the police department spread out into where we would have been, and then really remodel the building. It's not just the cost of an addition, it's really rebuilding the whole building, from roofs, electric. One of the things that's very bothersome to us is that the generator, which we need to replace, is undersized for the building, so we only get to do emergency lighting, no air conditioning, and limited power to the building. The idea would be to really make this a place that could stand up to, make it better for storm resistance, and then have enough power to power the building from soup to nuts. I'll let Stefano walk you through our options, which was it's either, option one was that, option two was start from scratch, knock it down, build from new, and then they'll go through option 3 and 4 with you, which is a reduced version of that.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Stefano, do you want to introduce yourself? Sure.
Good evening. My name's Stefano with Kimley Horn Associates.
Thank you.
Ron went through the initial part of the presentation, but we'll kind of touch on some stuff, and then I'll turn it over to Abbas, the architect, that will walk you through some of the interior designs that we've worked with staff.
Can't hear you.
We've worked with staff to lay out.
There you go.
Just for the record, Mayor Leonard's here.
Thank you.
So originally, when we were tasked to look at this options for the town hall, we looked at 3 locations. One being on the causeway, right between the island, if you guys call it. And the options there were limited because the cost of construction would be a little bit more due to the staging and to getting there. There would be no place to actually stage and construct at the same time. Additionally, the utility infrastructure is not in place, water, sewer, drainage, and all of that. So those were elements that we took into account, and therefore we looked at some other sites. Another site we looked at was adjacent to the parking garage on the south side of...
Stefano?
Yes, sir?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you there?
Yes, sir?
If I'm not mistaken, like 3 years ago, we had a building there that was fully functional, right? The Toll Plaza had a building there. It had plumbing, it had electric, it had infrastructure.
Septic tank.
It
They're
had
all
everything.
septic.
The septic tank and the Toll Plaza had about, I'd say 10,000 square feet. What we're looking here is substantially more, so it would involve a little bit larger utility infrastructure, water, sewer, be a little bit more substantial than what the Toll Plaza required.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
On the second site, adjacent to the parking garage south of King Concourse, it's a smaller site, so the footprint wasn't as developed, so we'd have to go vertical if we weren't sharing the parking with the parking garage structure. Additionally, as Ron had mentioned, this facility has the current lift station for the entire town, and that would have to remain in sight, so we wouldn't be able to completely eliminate this parcel. So it would be still sharing facilities, possibly leaving something back here to maintain this site and then putting half there. So in talking to staff, the splitting up of the staff was not ideal, so then we looked at this option 3. The existing location, as we know it, 97th Street, where we're currently located. This is a location map. The existing town hall, 9,500 square feet. We're familiar with it, and that's what we were working with. As Ron had mentioned, we have 4 options. Option 1, existing interior and exterior building renovations, plus a 6,000 square foot expansion. That expansion, we can go back 1 second, would be over the existing surface parking lot. So you'd have almost like structured parking, just remaining in place with 6,000 square feet above the parking area. Option 2, completely demolish the existing facility. And when I say that, I should go back from about the lift station where I don't have a mouse, but, oh wait, there it is. I'm not sure if you can see it, about this area to the west. That would be the demolition, and then building a new 3-story, 20,000 square foot facility. Option 3, existing interior building renovation with enclosing the open lobby area. And what we mean, you can't see it here, but the stairwell in that first floor lobby area, making that all enclosed, a central arrival, meeting a receptionist or something there, and then going off into the independent areas of the site, of the building. And option 4, existing interior building renovation without enclosing the lobby, which would still leave that out, and they would be separate police and town staff. And at this point, I'll turn it over to the boss. Sorry. I think when we were, apologize, when we were setting it up, I believe one of the, and, it's still, sorry, not sure how that happened when we were. That's better. All right, at this point, I'll turn it over to our boss to go over the details of each option.
Great. Thank you very much. Good evening, council members, staff.
Your name, please.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so what we did was we met with staff.
Your name, please.
Abbas Zachariah, Walter Zachariah Associates. What we did was we met with staff. We looked at the existing building facilities. We looked at the program. We looked at the needs. And, currently you have on the ground floor, you have PD and city administration together on each side, and on the second floor you have building department and council chambers. The space is very limited, and they've really outgrown the facilities. So what we did was we looked at the program, we looked at what was required for their operations, and we handed out a handout just so it's easier to see. Let me see. Okay, so this is option number 1 that you see in plan. What the proposal is to construct an addition over the existing parking lot. So we would preserve most of the parking lot underneath the building, and it would span over, so you still had the parking, and we would do an addition over that. So what that allows is that entire addition would have the city administration functions within it. And then that frees up the entire the ground floor for the police department. So the police department, which is really constricted within their space, would have the entire ground floor. It would be split with the lobby in the middle, but at least they have a lot more space. So this is the existing floor plan, which is the first sheet on your handout, and it has the PD, the town administration, the public works with the small tank, and on the second floor, the council chambers and the building department. So the proposed first floor plan, this is all option 1. So proposed first floor plan, the police department would have the entire first floor with a public lobby in the middle enclosed, and you see the parking has columns going up and a set of stairs. So that is to allow for the second floor above the parking. And then on the second floor, we have the entire city administration in the addition portion of it. Council chambers and building department remain as they are currently, with minor improvements. So the cost estimate with contingency, design fees, all of that, we approximate to be about $7 million. Option 2 is complete demolition of the existing building plus the small tank and constructing a new 3-story, 20,000 square foot building. So currently the building square footage is about 9,500 square feet. The addition that we were proposing as part of option 1 was about 6,500 square feet. So it was about 16,000 to 17,000 in option 1. Option 2, we're saying 20,000. That gives you some future growth. With option 1, there's really constricted to the current needs. So option 2, you see the layout with the building being in the current footprint of the current town hall. The parking would get expanded slightly with the extra area. The cost of option 2, with design fees and contingency, it's $11.6 million. So option 1 is $7 million, option 2 is $11.7 million. Option 3 is to renovate the existing building, so no addition, no replacement. So renovating the existing building and closing the lobby, so the center lobby area that you have would be enclosed, and that's, we estimate to be about $3 million. And option number 4 is renovating the existing building without enclosing the lobby, and that is $2.5 million. And any questions?
Before anybody asks a question, I think one thing that has to be mentioned is that renovation of the building doesn't mean a coat of paint and, moving desks around. It really means gutting the building, redoing everything to almost bring it back to as new condition. You're still in a position where the building is the building. The ground floor, in a perfect world, would be built up another couple of feet to meet base flood elevations. But as far as everything else on that ground floor and in the building, from roof to electric to generators to all that, would be redone, and that's reflective in that price for the option 2. It's not just it's just not an addition. It's redoing everything from soup to nuts. Still expensive, but.
Well, we had some public comments, but first let's have the council. I'm sure everyone's got questions. Does anyone want to start off, or okay, you want to start?
Well, first I'd like to recognize that I can see the need for some kind of expansion. I realize, we've grown out of the space. I know in the police department they've tried to retrofit, so there has been some renovation. Do you know what we've spent so far on, trying to accommodate female officers, a locker room, any other accreditation things?
Probably
maybe?
about $35,000 or $40,000
that's
over the
okay.
last couple of years.
Right.
Then not all at once.
Okay. I also think that if we're going to do something, which is probably, if I guess the bridge is apples and oranges, because we're talking, it was about 50% more than we bargained for, but in my experience with construction, it's always more. I don't see us getting off for anything less, so we have to be prepared for big contingency on that. And if we're going to do that, then I think we really need to think outside the box to analyze our needs, the community's needs, the business district needs, and try to get as much as we can, because it seems like with these options, either we're investing a lot, 12 million plus, maybe that could be 15 million, that's crazy, or we're pretty much just, sure, we're changing the infrastructure here, because I'm sure, plumbing and electric, and when was this building built? In the 50s?
74.
74. Okay, so, nothing here really floats my boat. I don't know, it seems to me like, well, I'll defer.
We can agree on that.
Yeah. Jordan. Yeah, well, I think I voted against even having the study to begin with. First of all, in a year that we spent $18 million on an $11 million bridge project, in my opinion, disqualifies us from even talking about any type of capital improvements to anywhere at this point. I think we need, I'm old school. I don't believe in going out and borrowing money for the sake of spending money and gold plating our town. To me, the plan to reconstruct the town hall comes out to like $585 per square foot, which just sounds incredibly high to me. Typically, property in Bay Harbor Island sells for
$585 a square foot, and it includes land. Here, we're giving you the land, and you're just building the property on top of it. I have a question before I continue my comments. How many employees did we have before we tore down the toll plaza?
Out there, about 105,
And how many employees do we have now?
about 85.
85 employees? So I think we're like, we survived with 105 employees. I know that we took down, how many square feet was the toll plaza building?
It looked bigger than it was. The inside of it was very small.
Small.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
tiny.
So, I mean, based on these numbers, we're almost better served if we need additional space, just go into, 1111 building and just say, okay, I want to buy up a quarter of a story and create new facilities there. I think it'll be 1/3 the price if we really need the space. I'm not sure we really need the space. I mean, I visited Town Hall, I think it was in the middle of last week, and, I came in, I think people were out to lunch, but the ground floor was empty. I went into Town Hall, it was empty. The only person that was there was Ola. Is that her name?
Alo.
Alo. Yeah, she was the only person there. But space-wise, the place was pretty empty. I'm not sure what the cops need. I don't see our police force expanding at all. I know that we got certified this year, and it was great, but I was against the study, and I don't think any of these options really work for me, especially in a year that we were over budget on another project by $5 million.
All right. Elizabeth, want to say?
I want to echo kind of what they said. I think that not to echo what everyone said. I think there's two things. One, I do see the need for it, particularly with the police department. I do see the need for it. I'm not intoxicated by any of the options that we have, and I am concerned with the cost because for me, I don't want to just build something that's going to work for us now or renovate something that's going to work for us now. I want something that's going to work for us if we're going to spend millions of dollars on it. I want to know it's going to work in 10 years or in 20 years. I want to know, Chief, what do you need in 15 years when our population is more? What is that going to look like? Because what I don't want is in 15 years from now to see another $5 or $7 million renovation budget come through after we have just spent potentially $5 or $7 million on a renovation already. And so I think I'd like to have a better understanding of what it is that we're going to need long-term, and plan according to that, and relook at what these options are. To Isaac's point, I think that the timing is a little difficult right now. We did just spend a lot of money. We don't have the tax revenues in from the new buildings yet. And so it may be a little bit difficult right now to justify some of these changes that we're talking about doing. So for me, in the short run, I think I'd like to see some more options. And I'd like to see if we're going to talk about a new building, I think we need to talk about really what will that building look like, and what are we going to do to make that a special building and a long-term building, and something that becomes a destination point in its own right that we can be proud of as a town to have as our town hall.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm going to start down the list here. I mean, yeah, Isaac and I got the same math, which I'm happy about since he's the accountant and I'm getting the same number as him. That's pretty good. $585 a foot is ridiculous. But in the same line, I was looking at if you renovate on the same thing. I'm not advocating it. I'm just seeing the difference here. The cost we're end up paying per square foot at the renovation, including the addition, is more than $100 cheaper at $452. Still expensive when the land's already included. Renovating with the existing without enclosing the open lobby, where it's $263 for renovation, just for renovation. Again, way too high, and you're not with any kind of new product. I didn't know the square footage, or I would do the rest of the math, but I don't know the square footage we get by enclosing the front, so I couldn't do that for the lobby area. But again, the budget for this is not going to be kept to. We know that. It's never been kept to. I know for a fact we'll hear those dreaded words, change order, and then later on those numbers are going to keep going up and up and up. I can't justify any kind of cost that's going to be, first of all, I can't justify the cost we have here, let alone what they're going to become. It just becomes way too much. And look, the fact of the matter is we've been very proud about the fact that we keep bringing back our millage rate back down. You know, we've got this, I'm assuming this sheet here we have that shows the prices from Alan, giving us what we'd have to do here, but you know, the idea of what we'd end up having to do to the millage rate to actually pay just for the debt on this, it just doesn't, you know, no matter how much we need the additional space, no matter whether we do or we don't, no matter how much we would need a new facility, I can't ration that with the numbers and the cost and what it would end up doing the millage rate just so that our finances don't get messed up. Now, that being said, I guess this is where we have to start seeing about whether or not, and I think maybe it would have been a better idea to actually have a thought about lobbying as to whether or not we can go ahead and get a grant with the state, because I don't see anything in the plans here that provide for any form of hurricane shelter. And we've talked about providing this as hurricane proof with a generator and so forth. But if there was part of the design in here that provided for an emergency shelter, and our you know, quite honestly, our community center is not that. It's not meant as a shelter. But if we're providing a generator, if we're providing something that's going to be above flood level, if we're providing all of that within the government building, I'd like to see some form of an emergency shelter, because I'll tell you, after the storm here, you know, I walked around and talked to a lot of people that still, you know, they should have evacuated, but they stayed, and we got lucky. But that's not always going to be the case. If we were to have at least some area in the building, if we were even going to do something where there is some form of an emergency shelter, I'd like to approach the state and see what we can do about getting some form of grant to pay for part of it. Now, if it's not possible, it may come all off the table. But that's something that I'd like to know first.
I don't understand what you mean by shelter. Somewhere where they can weather out the storm?
For weather out the storm, I'm not talking about long term.
We're in a mandatory evacuation.
You can't do that in
so
evacuation.
They will not give us the money to encourage.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, you know, whether or not we're in evacuation, whether an evacuation order or not is in effect, you will have people that don't have their places ready. They don't have those situations. And having the ability even to come back afterwards or something along those lines, or even for staff, whatever's needed, because if there's some way we can get some additional state funds, then I'd be more willing to take a look at something like this. But what you're talking about here is...
But you understand something, an evacuation zone includes staff and everything.
I understand, but we also have people coming back and everything else.
What
There are
about the
ways to phrase
EOC,
it.
the
Right.
Emergency Operations Center, that even in Monroe County, they had a few and they were in an evacuation zone?
Right, there are ways to phrase it with the state to try and see what we can do, and it's a possibility. But my point being this, we've, you know, Ron, you've been very proud, and you've been rightfully so, for being able to pare down the number of employees that we had while keeping all of the services up above par, and at the same time making sure our budget's in line. We're designing something here for a larger number of people. I don't think any of us have a plan here to encourage a significant growth of the size of our local government. So
Hold on, this is not the school.
no, I understand, but that's, but we're back to the
Building
same, but we're
classrooms.
back to the same argument, and it comes down to the same, look, is this a facility, is the current facility working for us? No, there are plenty of problems. Nobody's going to debate you on that for a moment. Is it something that needs to be fixed? Absolutely. Is this the way to do it? Not at these costs. I just, you know, there's got to be something that's middle ground. There's got to be something that provides what we need without spending this amount of money, at least at this time. And as my colleagues have said earlier, and the fact of the matter is, you know, our budget changes as more and more of the projects that are being built come online. But for our current budget and the fact of what we've been trying to do to pare down the costs, I'm not, you know, I look at this millage rate requirement and the debt payments on this.
Can I answer some of before, Bob, do you want to talk? Because
I
I
want to answer
to...
one very basic question you raised but didn't answer. It's how much does it cost to close in the atrium? There, it's $900 a foot.
900, so I didn't see how many square feet that was.
Really?
$900 a foot, $899.
Gee, how many square
It's
feet?
556 square feet.
Okay, that's all it
And
was.
the
Okay, I
difference
didn't see where the
in plan is
$565,
$500,000,
yeah,
so
which
it's
which becomes an absurd amount of money.
Okay.
For, I mean, for that, I mean,
I have-
we're not gold plating the place.
I have to say, I love this building. I mean, when you first see it, it's kind of
Cool.
interesting, and to me, it's a nice-looking building. And over time, I've really, you know, I like this building, and I think it's a strong building, and to knock it down would be terrible, in my opinion. Are we in a position where all of us are jumping out the window because we can't work? No, we're not at that level. You've all mentioned very important things, destination point, you know, all bell and whistle kind of things, which significantly, no matter what we do, wait now, in the future, you're talking about things that are big money, big ticket items. Our direction really to them was, we have to keep it to the most basic. The police department is expanding to go through what they really need for those, separate, it's not unreasonable to expect, like, the men and women to have separate facilities.
Ron, I'm not going to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but look, I think you know for a fact, every single person on this council will vote for every single thing that we can provide for our police department. It's not a matter of that. It's just a matter, it comes down to one thing. When push comes to shove, the cost per square foot for what we're being provided here, that's the problem. It's not a matter of anything else.
Listen, I was coming to the point. Can we make do with what we have? Absolutely. And if I was, I was looking at something to grow us into that, for the next 20 or 30 years. To be honest with you, the 6,000 square feet, I think gets us that, because we haven't done anything since this building was built basically 45 years ago. Now we're looking to the first major hit to improve the building. So that's, it's not something we're just doing on a lark. The other idea was, when we saw the cost estimates, as much as I complained that the bridge was on the low side and argued about it, I actually thought these were kind of on the high side, considering what I see getting built around here in construction. But to their point, they said, listen, we don't want to be like in a Hardesty situation where I shoot low and, now we're and these are estimates. And I'd ask them to please talk to that point a little bit about how you get to estimates and,
Well, let me just make a couple of comments first before they do that. Because, I agree pretty much with everything that my colleagues up here said. I don't think any of the four options really work at this point based on the cost. I have no issue with more space for the police department, more facilities and so forth, of course, and I can certainly see the utility of modernizing some of our facilities here in Town Hall. The problem with the two options, the $3 million and the $2.5 million, is it's really nebulous. I have no idea what that buys us. You said it's a complete top to bottom renovation, but what, to go back to the same space? You're going to be able to put more personnel in there? What does $3 million really buy? It just seems like, Isaac said you go rent space or buy a condo, in the 1111 building and then get a couple thousand square feet.
If we were going to if we were going to go just like to stay in our existing space, I would not go for the enclosing of the lobby space.
Right.
Because it just kind of makes, it's a different look. I don't think we have to have it. I do think if they look at the space and redesign what we have, because, it's, I can't look at something and say, oh, I can move things around and this would work a lot better than what it is. I don't have that ability. They would have to do that. And I'm sure they could, maybe if you looked at the PD and switched a few things around, they could get to where it's a little better. I don't know for sure.
Right. I just don't, even at that fourth option for $2.5 million, it just seems really high to me. And, I don't, we have a community center. I don't think Town Hall really has to be a destination point, to be perfectly honest with you. People aren't going to come here to hang out. They come here to do business and leave. So I don't see this as a destination point, but I think that the facilities could be modernized, better utilized.
We can take the chairs out of the lobby.
Right, but not for $2.5 million. I'm seriously,
I know.
All of the costs here are just out of line for what we need.
Well, give you my 2 cents before you chime in, please. I don't think this is a Hardesty and Hanover comparison. I
don't mean to say it is.
Yeah, I know, but this is a lot of money. Hardesty and Hanover, you're talking about something where you're chipping away the concrete and you're finding out, you have issues behind. This is pretty basic. You're either going to rehab the existing structure or you're going to tear it down and build a new structure. This is about as basic as it gets. And I don't understand how in God's green earth you come up with, outrageous numbers. They build new buildings in this town for less money than what you're quoting us. No one on this council is crazy enough to vote for that. It would be suicide to say we're going to spend that kind of money. It's just off the walls. And, this is an issue that Ron and I have discussed on many occasions. Unfortunately, we don't see eye to eye on this, but this is just one of those situations where, what are we going to do? The problem that I see is that this is a poor utilization of our current space. So it's not just the fact that the possibility of what's going to last 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, it's what are we using it now? I mean, one of the biggest problems I had with this study, and again, Ron and I have gotten into some interesting conversations about this, is the fact that under every single scenario, you keep the tanks, the former water tanks. The concept of spending, let's just say on the low side, the $7 million project. The idea that we were going to spend $7 million or even $12 million and we're still going to have people working in a sphere is just, how could you even say it with a straight face kind of thing? And, and I know staff is trying to come up with scenarios, and the concept behind that, from my understanding, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told by staff was, well, it's hardened, and it will, survive a storm. Well, I'm sure it obviously has survived a storm, but the purpose of why we have a town hall complex is, A, to survive a storm, yes, that serves a purpose, but to do business. And this is a poor utilization of space. I expected more in regards to how to either, have a better utilization of the current space or build a new space. Personally, I would love to have a new complex. I don't think anyone says, oh, I don't agree with Ron when it comes to the building. If the building came down, we built a new building, I wouldn't cry over it. Personally, I don't think it's particularly a beautiful building, but I know you love the building.
I wouldn't cry.
I know. Ron would actually probably cry. But that being said, it's just the numbers don't add up. It doesn't make any sense. I don't understand how you got to these numbers. I'd love to hear that conversation, because apparently every other developer in this town or in South Florida can do it better, cheaper. It's not as if you're talking about significant wiring or hardening that it's not like you're not billing it to the building code or everyone has to build to the same building code. Now, if you told me that the new building is going to be Cat 5 protected and it's cost twice as much because, like Josh said, it has to be, at the level of almost the EOC in Doral, then I can understand. But that's not what we're talking about. No one ever said that we're going to build a Doral, because if you're going to do that, it's not going to have any windows. The issue that I have is that we paid for a study to come up with solutions, and to be quite honest, we didn't get any solutions. We just got a bunch of options. It's great to have options, but I'm not paying for options, I'm paying for a solution. And I knew walking in here, there were no options. None of these options are suitable for our needs. We need something that's, either going to be, we're going to build a new facility that we can afford, that's doable, or we're going to rehab the current facility that we can afford, that's doable. Josh is completely right, that when it comes to actually paying for it, there's the possibility of getting some dollars from Tallahassee. That is a possibility. But make no mistake about it, it's not going to pay for the whole thing. If they pay 10%, for a $7 million project, you're talking about $700,000. We'd be tickled pink to get $700,000 out of Tallahassee, because believe me, getting money out of Tallahassee is not an easy feat. But that being said, most of the brunt is going to be borne on our taxpayers. The police department, everyone knows that the detectives work in an office that's so small that it used to be the closet. When we rehabbed to become accredited, we had to take away one of our jail cells to actually provide proper storage of evidence. They've done a lot with a very little money, but it's obvious it's not conducive to what we need. We had, for how many years did we have issues with men's and women's bathrooms? We had that issue for what, a year and a half, where people were like, where are we going to use the bathroom? Right now, if you want to use the bathroom right now, you actually have to go downstairs and use the bathroom outside. I mean, we don't even have a bathroom on this level anymore because we don't have proper facilities. So I think we're all cognizant of that. My disappointment is that you came up with options and none of them are options that we can use. What I'd like to know from staff is, what are we going to do about that? Because, we depend on you guys to tell us
Well,
what...
you're saying a lot of things that the needs of the town. I mean, we met extensively with the architect and the engineer, and we discussed what we need, we'd like to see. From my point of view, you got to get IT off the ground floor.
I agree.
You get most of your administration stuff, finance, and all that off the ground floor. In a perfect world, the PD would be upstairs too, but that's not doable. They are the first thing that you would see when you entered the building. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I mean, thinking about and listening to what everybody's saying, it's almost like you're describing two things. We want to do it economically, but we'd like this to be like super duper. And I don't know if we can get there. I mean, I want them to talk about their estimates, on a separate matter. But hearing what you're saying, I do think the option one, option one, the fourth option, doesn't have to be all done. If we're gonna peel back and say, listen, let's just look at what we got. To Isaac's point, we have 85 people. We're not all stuffed in here at the same time, for sure. We do that. Hey, maybe we target the police department first and make that the first phase of they go first. Then we go over to administration or the building department and redo that, and then come down to administration and the finance in the back. The only one thing that I would have to have is getting IT off the ground floor. That have to go upstairs. But, that's another way to do it. But to get to where everybody would like that kind of Doral-ish style, or, get to that special place, I think it costs money. And trust me, I'm not against, I don't want to spend that kind of money.
No, we're saying we don't want that. We're saying that you're building this almost as if that's what the concept is, and that it's priced that way, and that's the whole point, is that, the way this came out like this, you would expect this to be exactly that. That's not what this is. This is a simple office building. It really isn't anything more than what you're talking about.
Right.
But the pricing here is not for a simple office building. I can tell you right now, what looks like what they did, I'm not trying to go, is you figured out how much it is for the office building, and you tripled it and said, okay, there's our estimate. That's really what it comes down to. I've never seen simple construction over here at, doing some of this stuff at $585 a foot.
I think he's got to talk to the, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so let me talk about the cost estimate. I know it's shocking, but the numbers are, we have bids opening virtually every month, okay? So the numbers, we know what the numbers are. Part of the thing, you talked about the existing building. The configuration of the existing building does not allow for, it's not an open space structure. It's very pigeonholed with where the police department is. You have all kinds of bearing walls separating that space. So you can't just say, well, wipe everything out and redo it.
Right.
And you're confined to that space. You can't even, and then administration, you're confined to that space. And that's part of the problem, and that's the option one was to solve some of those issues, because what we were saying was, okay, if we build the second floor addition over the parking lot, then we can actually move administration up to the second floor, and then we can, expand PD on the entire first floor, have some room to work with what we have. In the current configuration, you don't have much space. You can spend the $2 million and you're not going to get a whole lot more because of what you are starting off with. As far as the addition, part of the reason why it's so expensive is because you're building over the parking lot. So you're saving the parking lot, you're putting piles down, you're putting columns down, building a structure, and then you're building another structure. You're basically building a two-story building without enclosing the first floor, right?
Let me ask you something. If you had a piece of land right here, flat, nothing on it right now, and we said build a three-story, just flat out three-story building that we're going to turn an office building to turn into our facility, how much per square foot?
Typically for a municipal facility, you're looking at about $250 a square foot.
Okay. So,
Can I jump in real quick
Sure.
to that? SFRTA, They just built a brand-new facility in Pompano Beach. They own that land. It's 74,000 square feet. They paid $418 a square foot. They are just a standard office building, 3 stories, and that's just currently, I mean, they've opened this year. So, I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from, but we're seeing this as an uptick. I mean, construction's going up, it's not down, and we're trying to estimate, so you guys budget accordingly now to when you build it. This uptick can continue to go, or it can crash, but
The one you just sampled, how many floors are they?
3 stories.
Yeah, so as you get higher, it gets a little bit more.
But that's
expensive.
that's what, $400 and change a square foot? You quoted us
Right, but economy
50%
of
more.
scale, the bigger you build it, the cheaper it's going to be per square foot. The smaller it is, you're paying for an
Right, they're
economy of
still-
scale.
And they're still overpaying, but it's we can,
Yeah.
I mean, okay, here's something else.
So I have one question. When you build a municipal building or this kind of facility, do you have, is there anything where you have to make it tougher or
I have to sell some
anything?
tea.
Well, typically, you have your standard construction and you have essential structure. So because your police department would be in this building, it would be classified as an essential structure. So you would have to meet 180 mile per hour winds versus 170, which is standard code, and make the upgrades that you need. The floor level, the finished floor level has to be raised because, again, you would fall into the essential structure category. So let me go back to the cost estimate again regarding what's included. So, for example, on the new construction, full, take down this building, build a new building. Well, to do that, you have to have a functional town hall somewhere else. So it includes all temporary facilities, moving the staff, having an operational town hall, coming back over. So it's not just the building. So when you do the cost per square foot, it's misleading because it's not giving you the true picture.
Okay, perfect. And I have we're going to try a little outside the box left field thought right here. The property across the street, the parking lot, the 1111 parking lot. I'd like to understand how much we'd be looking at for eminent domain to take the property. By doing that, taking it, building that with a parking garage, because we've been talking about that, or some other parking facility that we would work out something with 1111, but also potentially at the same time providing additional parking for the retail area, and at the same time then come back, turn around and sell this. We'd have revenue, we'd have a brand new facility, this would operate at the same time as the other one's being constructed, and we can do a standard box across the street.
The only caveat I'll add before you answer is that you can only sell up to a portion. Remember, your master lift station for sewer is here, in that facility, you could
Right,
reroute.
we can sell a portion, right? You're right,
okay.
you're absolutely right.
Well-
But, I mean, we're talking right now, I just want to understand the cost. It's left field and it may be absolutely, completely undoable.
It's not left
But
field.
but the fact of the matter is, well, we got to see what the cost in there, but the fact of the matter is, that property, there are several uses we can use it for, and at the same time, what we'd end up being able to do is maintaining this facility in full operation while we're doing it over there.
Did you want to say?
We tried to buy it.
I know the whole background, but the fact of the matter is, there are issues over there as far as when people, multiple parties have tried to buy it, there are issues over there. All those legally get solved by eminent domain.
I'm not an expert on eminent domain, but what I do know is that you need to establish a clear necessity for, and I'm not sure a town hall complex, when you have one already, constitutes that.
You don't have to go to the...
It is not a taking, you're not going to just get it for nothing, you have to pay them fair market value. So there is money there that we're going to have to spend. So I just, when you say taking...
No. I prefaced the whole thing by saying, let's see what we would estimate our cost for the eminent domain. Of course, you're paying out the nose, but here's the thing. We're paying even worse this way. So the fact of the matter is...
I'm not 100% sure once you add in legal fees and keep in mind that this may not qualify as a legitimate eminent domain.
I understand, but I actually, let me say, I think it does, and I think we can get past that barrier, and I think there's a way to do something here that may actually, in the long run, make the people at 1111 happy with the end result. We'd have to work out something there. We'd provide them parking as well, because that's the real key over there. And at the same time, we have other uses. Like I said, we don't pick up the additional cost for maintaining this for a secondary backup place. We would use this location while we're constructing there. There's additional revenue streams from the parking garage and everything else afterwards. And at the same time, we actually might have a facility that, provides us a little bit more than we want.
I think you could buy it off them. We had
No,
a
you
position
can't-
to buy
You
it.
can't right now. There are problems, like I explained to you before, there are problems with it that a taking actually does solve.
Can we have...
And I can
Frank
sit with
look
you
at
and
that?
go, what?
Can we have the town attorney look at the
Yeah,
legal
That's what I'm
options for
asking.
that?
That's what I'm
Yeah.
asking.
I mean, they can't legitimately sell it. You know, they
No.
can't even sell it.
Right, but
It might actually solve you're right, it might actually solve it.
This solves their problem.
Yeah, they can't sell it when they want to sell it.
Exactly.
You know, the problem with the lift station, and this has been an issue that I've discussed with Ron probably ad nauseum, including our engineer. I mean, I'm not of the opinion that you cannot, that you're married to this property because of the lift station. I mean, this is something that I strongly disagree with staff. I think it's feasible to create an easement, a deed restriction, and you could even move the line. It's doable. We've talked about the numbers. I mean, when I told Ron, I said, you know, think outside of the box. You guys literally did the opposite and gave us the box. I mean, I told Ron on numerous occasions to please, when he had his discussions with you guys, to think outside of the box, think about the possibilities. I mean, the lift station is a legitimate problem if you keep it where it is and you don't move anything. But if you move that line and you turn it, you open up so many possibilities in the parking. One of the problems that I have is that you really don't do anything in regards to the parking. I mean, you're going to build, you know, whether you rehab it or whether you build a second story. I mean, if you build a second story, you take away parking. There's less parking. There's less parking than you would have now. I mean, the concept of adding more space and decreasing the parking doesn't seem like a win-win scenario.
We lost one parking spot, which is to bring down the egress stairs from the second floor addition.
Ron, they just gave away your spot.
Yeah, that's Ron's spot, yeah.
Well, can I add something also? It's kind of a shame if we were to spend millions of dollars
Yeah.
to add a floor when there's a potential here to go up to 65 or 75 feet. You know, it's sort of like lost opportunity. It's in the business district.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that we build, 5, 6, 7 stories on our own and try, to be landlords, because I think we tried that with the parking garage and it didn't quite work. But, it sort of seems to me like we're leaving it on the table. Once we go to the third floor and that's it, and there's a lost opportunity and we've spent all of this money.
But across the street, that gets solved.
Right. Well, across the street, or if you worked out a public-private partnership. And, unfortunately, the business owners are not conducive to a public-private partnership, but
Which
that...
ones? At the 1111 building?
No, on King Concourse and the parking area. Remember that if we had a partnership and you rehab this property and you provided ample parking, I mean, you would put them at a completely different playing field.
So they've been asked?
I've spoken to people over the course of the last couple of years, and I've spoken to staff about it.
Adjacent to our facility?
Yep. And it's not something, I mean, it's worth asking again, but I think that that's actually worthy of a discussion, because if you provided the parking, hypothetically, if you provided the parking and we were above that, then they would have parking for their services. Now, whether they kept the existing buildings or rehab their buildings, you would put them at a different level, different playing field. The fact that across the street they're literally rehabbing that open space and that the store building, and they're going to build something significant. I mean, maybe it's a wake-up call. Maybe they're going to say, well, look what they're building across the street. We can have something similar here. Theoretically, you're talking about, what, 8 different individuals?
Over the last 2 years, every time this comes up, I have asked you to please reach out to all of the property owners adjacent to us, because they're significant players in this and they should be participating in this planning.
The only person that seemed conducive to this was Morris Broad.
That's right.
He was the only person that actually really said, you know what, this is a possibility. And the Broad family owns the land all the way at the end on East Bay Harbor Drive.
But that's not next to us. Have you reached out to any of the business
I know-
property owners
I know-
adjacent to us?
No.
Thank you.
I've spoken to a few of them. I do agree that when the property gets developed at the end of the block, that will inspire others to do other things. It was, the few people that I did speak were very, just wasn't happening, they weren't interested, you know, and again, I didn't speak to everybody, I didn't, but,
It's a lost opportunity.
so,
I mean, I think that's a real possibility, and I think that if we have to move the line, not move the lift station, but actually change the direction of the line, or...
I know what that means, Jordan.
Oh, I'm
Change the
sorry.
direction.
listen, Jordan, just to, before you say that, you know, Jordan did speak to me about changing the configuration of the pump station. Moving a line is $50,000 to make it jot another way.
Right.
To turn it around and turn the whole station around?
No,
that
you
was-
don't need to change the whole station around.
You do, you have to change the pumps around. It's, let me, I mean, I don't know if Randy's here,
No.
but that's big money to do that.
The reason, not to get too much into it, but the concept was, where does the actual lift station lines go out? And they go out heading north and then they turn. So if you were going to do a partnership and you were going to utilize the parking area that we own, which is to the east of us and to the north of us in this area here, how would you, because here's the lift station, so lines go here and then they turn. So we would have to actually possibly cut it and turn it the other direction.
Right.
So, you know, when we were discussing with Randy, it came out to, like you said, around $50,000. I think that's a negligible thing, but again, it's all moot if you don't have a plan.
But we would be turning it in our property. Once we go into the alleyway the other side, which is not a bad idea, you're traveling across a lot of people's property.
Well, that's,
And
but again,
it kind
that
of
goes...
negates what you want to do. Now you have our infrastructure running against, what are you going to build over?
But that's, again, you're going, you know, it goes back to the same concept as what do you want to do? And none of it matters if you don't have a plan. You know, for example, we don't own the land, you know, we on the council knows, but some people may not know in the community, that the parking lot right outside Town Hall, we don't own, we lease it. You know, we don't own that land, Dr. Whittles owns that land. You know, and he, you know, very generously, you know, leases us that property. You know, he would be a major player, you know, because not only if we rehab this property, but utilize that property, you have a real partnership. You know, these are the types of things that I expected to come out of this. Instead, we got this. So, you know, I mean, I'm done. I mean, I don't have anything else to say. You know, besides public comment. Let's go. You know?
No, I will say this, Kelly, to your point. I've had conversation with Dr. Whittles before, and he has an idea of redeveloping his property, and he indicated that he, you know, if the town would be open to lease space from him. But in that conversation, my mentality was, or my thought was, why would the town, if we own it, why would we lease in perpetuity something? And that was my
whole point was, I don't want to micromanage what you do, but the last time when we set this date, the last thing I said was very generically, not just identifying one property owner, but clearly...
That was a conversation, I saw him here, and that's what I meant.
And, you know, at least bring him to the table, you know, that, I don't know what he would propose or what you would propose, but that concept, you know, either we should hear no, we're not doing anything in that direction, or maybe we'd have option 5 or 6. But, you know, like I said, we have all this airspace that we're missing an opportunity, and we're talking about, you know, in the future with Kane Concourse bartering either TDRs or, you know, land for land or whatever, but this is a perfect example. So I think that's a huge missed opportunity right now.
I've spoken to probably half the property owners, and I stopped, because there's no point, you know, when...
This is the most significant with the parking included, so
Right, no, I agree.
there's no need to talk to the one.
All right, so we have public comment. Francis Newhut, come on down.
Thank you.
No, it's 3 minutes if you're good on welfare.
There's a 3-minute time limit on comments.
If the council wants to give you more time, they will.
I don't see anywhere where...
Listen, it's a workshop, we have 4 people here.
3
You know,
minutes.
come on.
We'll give her 3 minutes.
Let's do it, let's start either way.
Francis Newhut,
Good evening.
1060 Kane Concourse. I'd like to start out with a comment that our town manager said. and that is that you've been talking about this for a long time. Well, you know, as you can see from the community, 3 people show up. And why is that? And the 3 people who showed up, as I recall, were very influential in telling you not to refurbish the, the bridge, not to put us in a basement for a community center library. This was input from your community, and you're not listening. And you go to Bell Harbor and these other places when they're doing projects or selling land, guess what? The community has to vote. Here, we don't vote. As a matter of fact, we have what's called a home rule power that certain people on this council had put together in our charter. And with that, it tells you we don't have any power. All these things that you have been approving, I can stand up here forever and sit down, and you don't even have to listen to me because you can vote without me. You can vote without the people. You can do anything you want. But there's one thing in here that you can't do. And it talks about right-of-ways, alleys, roads. You control everything, but you don't control garages. And that's what's in here. You do not, it's not in here. So getting back to this situation, because I don't want to off track with this home rule power here, is that I'm going to go with the worst. First of all, what happened to the government TDR money? I get a paper here that you're borrowing money for this. This is millions of dollars. Where's all that government TDR money that you took from the people? Because you took our right-of-ways, you took our gateways, you took our waterfront park, you put us in a basement. Where are all these things? And now we're going to build a community, a town hall? That's not for the people. That's for you. That's for the employees here. And as far as the police go, there was already discussion that they were willing to go to the fire, near the fire rescue before you decided to put us in the basement. Why weren't they put there? More importantly is the parking. And this is an increase, where the business is four parcels, four streets. The point I'm trying to make is this town is in the business district. The church, the hotels, the school, all these things are using the parking of the business district. We don't have anything left. And you don't have the power to build a garage. It's the people who have to build this garage. And you're going to be taking money from us to bail the bond or whatever you're going to do. Because who's paying for all this? I would like to know. And I'm getting tired of not being able to vote and for you to ignore the people of this town. There's nobody at these meetings, and there's a reason for it.
Thank you for your comments.
Jordan, I'd like to speak to that briefly.
Sure.
I am very disappointed in our failure to engage people. And I say it all the time, I would love to see a newsletter that goes out on email like other cities have, the e-letter you can sign up for. I drove by on Kane Concourse today, and the digital sign is already advertising the Sunday Farmers Market. It's not even on there. It could have been on there yesterday and today to remind people. The P&Z, were they included in this? Would they, be invited or want to have some input? We have two Facebook opportunities. Marlene's trying hard, hers is growing, but it's probably about 50 people that are connected, and you did post the meeting and the link to the agenda, which is great. And then the town's has about 560 likes, but the town Facebook page didn't even publish it. So, I think it's very disappointing. And then finally, in the newsletter, we talked after the storm, and it was great how, our response, we did a whole extra page on pictures of cleaning up the causeway, and the only mention of this meeting for this significant millions of dollars is a one-liner in upcoming meetings that just says, special council meeting October 24th, town hall facilities. So I agree that this room is empty because we have a couple of our gladiators and a significant stakeholder. And, we got a press release that we're in the SafeWise 20 safest cities. We've got lots of pictures. But once again, I am extremely, extremely disappointed in our failure to inform people. And some people would probably find out about this facility by seeing the demolition, a year from now. So please, staff, I implore you, please do what you can. Look what other cities are doing. We have to inform people. Perhaps the next time that we talk about this, we'll plan ahead and put some of these images in the newsletter, because a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Kelly, perhaps you could, I'm not disagreeing with anything you say, but since you are saying what all of these other cities are doing, perhaps you can report back to us at the next council meeting with some examples, because I would like more information
I signed up
as to
for
what other cities
Surfside's.
are doing.
Go to Surfside's website and sign up, and you will find out. That's how I found out about all our bridge closures before we even put them out. But I sign up. Sometimes I forward them to Ron as examples. And, all right, if you'd like me to.
I would like to know more about that.
Okay, good.
Jordan, let me actually, I mean, usually I wouldn't comment here, but I am going to say one thing, just for anybody else who's here in the audience, as well as anybody else who's watching at home on TV. Ms. Newhart was complaining about two different things in particular. She was complaining about that we spent money to do the bridge. That, first of all, was a safety issue. We did not want the bridge to collapse, so we actually did exactly what needed to be done to get the bridge repaired. Second complaint was about the library. The library has been incredibly successful. In fact, we're actually expanding the hours at the community center. We're all proud of the community center.
By the way, it's not in a basement. We don't have a basement.
Yes, there's no basement.
When everybody's going to chime in, I need to say something about home rule.
Yeah, please.
This council did not launch or develop the concept of home rule. Home rule is a concept that was developed.
Mrs. Newhart, excuse me.
That was developed, by municipalities, I think, as far back as the Revolutionary War.
It's in the Constitution of the state of Florida and in our
Right,
charter
right,
of
right.
Miami-Dade County.
And
1845 for us.
Right.
All right, Mr. Meyer? You got credit for it. And the internet.
Maybe I get one of those bags.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. And it is kind of shameful that for the last 2 years, I think, we've been talking about a digital electronic sign, to put somewhere so that people can get notice of meetings. And for 2 years, we've found one excuse after another, one design after another, for meeting notices. But be that as it may, with respect to these renovations, there is no question, at least in my mind, that renovations need to be done here. The workspace, especially in the building department, is really crappy. Okay, it's tight. So much of the plans and documents are out there. They haven't been digitized. Everything is cramped. And it's really a tough work environment. There's no question in my mind, at least there, that the working conditions are not ideal. And looking at the police department, there's no question that, there needs to be changes there too. I had talked about at the last, whenever this subject came up of renovations or whatever, we have a piece of property that we already own that is a block over in that parking lot here on West Bay Harbor Drive on the corner, right across the street from where, they just knocked down, this building, the store building. So right across the street from there is a parking lot that we own. Yes, it's not zoned business. I understand that. But in my opinion, at least, you can look at, especially given the costs of building a police department there on the first floor. On the second floor, you can put a building department, which is where you have a lot of the public traffic that comes in, a lot of contractors and architects and so on and so forth, are funneling in and out, to use that building department. And if you need to go up to a third story, you can, potentially, depending on the amount of square feet that you need. And you're talking about new construction there, and you can still keep and maintain everything else here and renovate the space that you have here. And I agree to make better use of the space that we have. But I think the solution presents itself in terms of something that you already have. You can build out, a police department, a building department, or something else on the second floor if you need to put IT. there in terms of whatever you need in terms of air conditioning systems and whatnot to maintain a lot of the IT stuff. But you have that land there that you can do something with, and it's not that far from here.
Thank you for your comments. Kathleen Kennedy? So nice you wrote it twice.
No, one was for public.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy, 9180 West Bay Harbor Drive. I want to try and open up a window to all of your wonderful brains up there. First of all, it's because of all of you that we have the best police department. You funded it well. We got administrator here. We got Sean back there. So open up your window. They need some improvements there. All of you have nice offices. Your employees are in good offices. Some of them are being renovated as we speak. Why can't we modernize our building? We have a church coming in here. We have hotels coming in here. We have a synagogue down the street. Why can't we modernize our city hall and be right in there with everybody? I think it's that when I walk in there, it's just smelly. It's dirty. It stinks, and I think it needs an upgrade. I think option one is an idea. I think it's very expensive, and I agree with you, Josh and Isaac. It is a little pricey, but I don't know how many bids went out on this. But if you do decide to do it, put a penalty on the contract that if you go over or if you whatever, you got to pay. I used to do that when I was anyway. So. I think, I have another issue, by the way. I want to congratulate Sean Hemingway and his police department. I want to congratulate you guys, because it's because of you guys that we are the best police department in Miami-Dade County, because you are the guys that fund it. Okay? And of course, the boss over there, Mr. Wasson. And also make sure, Sean, that you mention it to the citizens, because we're having pizza with the cops. The last time we had about 100 citizens showing up there, so I think the citizens should know that we have the best, safest, wonderful police department here in Bay Harbor Islands. And really, it's because of you guys, because you fund it well and you do a good job. Okay? So, thank you, and have an open mind about City Hall. The employees need a good environment. They deserve it, and so does the police department. So open up your windows, fresh air, and maybe the next time we can have another conversation. Okay? Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your comments. All right, any other further comments from council? Any directions?
Just so I throw this out there, if this discussion is fine, this is good discussion, and, we pick up a lot of what you're saying. But it is a first step. By no means does this, even if by something they said, oh, let's do option one, it would be a long time. It would be back many times to the council.
Sorry, Ron. Thanks for your comments.
It would be to planning and zoning and DRC, and it would be, a lot of review and a lot of public comment to find out. Basically, it's what do you, this was like a first step, basically. You have to start somewhere.
As a second step, I'd like to have you speak with council about the potential of eminent domain across the street.
Yes, no, I'm going to we'll have that legal weigh in on that.
And I'd also like for staff to revisit with the property owners and see if there's maybe a renewed interest, since now we've made it into a public hearing. So maybe that's a possibility now.
Sure.
Who knows? It's amazing what 6 months or a year can do to people's lives.
I know. Yeah.
Once they start seeing what potential could be across the street, they'll see.
I agree with you, and I said that when you see one, it might spur others. So
I mean, listen, we can only try to ask. So that being said, any other further comments?
Would you allow Dr. Whittles to speak?
You want? He didn't put it in.
Fill out his
Yeah,
paper.
come on.
It's a workshop.
Yeah, sure.
he's going to let us use his house for a while.
Take it back to parking.
My name is Michael Whittles. I am at 1085 King Concourse. I'm really not going to talk about private and public relationships, I would entertain virtually anything. But really and truly, I think the 6 of you should be very proud that you're worrying about the millage. It's pretty impressive when all 6 of you are that concerned. And I've lived here a very long time, more than half of my life, and I've never been to a council meeting, and I don't go to many, but the concern talking about cost per square footage is really remarkable, and that you are that concerned. And aside I think what Mrs. Kennedy said about the police in the town hall, we just witnessed a category, I'm not sure what it was, maybe a 2, maybe a 3, but the cleanup, the police protection, because I didn't leave, don't judge me, and I really felt safe throughout the entire thing. I saw lots of workers driving around, picking up the covers for the lamps, to the city manager being concerned about the citizens. So yes, I think Mrs. Kennedy is right. It's a wonderful place we live, and I think it's more than the council, it's police, city manager, and his team. As far as the smell in the building, I've been in this building a lot. I don't really find it to be deplorable. I think it's run very well. And I commend the city. I've enjoyed my 30-plus years living here. And that's really all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. All right, any other comments? So we're going to do that. Staff's going to work on those 2 issues. That being said, we are going to adjourn at 8:23 p.m. Good night.
I mean, at lunchtime, sometimes you might